Hello, my group was the first and only group to clear Havoc 40 and True Survivor within the first 24 hours of the game mode coming out. I would like to talk about everything we learned and what I believe the absolute best and easiest way to clear the mode is. I have two disclaimers. One, why do I believe this to be the best comp? Well, for one, we were about 12 hours ahead of the next person showing off that they beat 40. And secondly, from what I heard from playtesters is none of the playtester groups even got True Survivor in a week of doing the mode, and we got it within 24 hours. And I don't think that's because we're better players. I think it's just because we abused more broken shit harder. And lastly, I'd like to say, as the final bit of this disclaimer, I'm going to be using a lot of strong language, as in, I'm going to say things like best, need to, must, you have to. I do not think you have to do anything for Havoc. I think you can play just about anything you want, in just about any way you want. You can play Ogren, you can play whatever. You should not let people tell you what to play, and anyone who says bring this or get kicked is a toxic elitist, and you should tell them to go fuck themselves. However, I will be talking exclusively about what I think the absolute best composition is, and if you would like an easy time beating Havoc, feel free to follow along with this as a guide. Okay, let's talk about the universal stuff. Everyone uses Dueling Sword. Well, first let me say the comp. Shout Vet, Chorus Zealot, Psyker with Aura, and with Bubble. Everyone uses Dueling Sword with Uncanny, Carapace, Flak. Everybody uses Stamina, Toughness with CDR, Toughness, Stamina, Regen. Why? Well, you just need as much toughness as possible. Havoc has shown that toughness is objectively better than health in every conceivable fashion. It comes back faster, you get more of it, you can overcap it, you get more reduction on it. The reduction is affected by the overcap and vice versa. You can get more back on the overcap and faster. Health is incredibly limited, and you just have less health than toughness on a lot of cases. So building for health, after the reductions ends up hurting you more than just putting into toughness, because you get flat toughness from the tree, which you can't get, and the reduction is a little wonky there. Second off, yes, 4% CDR is used on everyone's curio all the time, everywhere. You need your ultimate at such precise times. There are so many times when you need to use your ultimate, then you will need to use your ultimate again very rapidly, that even if it's only 3 seconds off, that 3 seconds is genuinely, in Havoc 40, consistently a deciding factor on if you die or if you can survive the encounter. And this is because so much of your crowd control and just straight up healing comes from ults, that if you're going to use 50 Chorus of Spiritual Fortitudes across 2 players, so if you're going to use 100 of them per run, that 6 seconds off each book, there's going to be at least one time when you really need a book right now, and it's 7 seconds off cooldown, and you die because that's 7 seconds of crushers running in that you otherwise wouldn't have had to deal with, that the CDR would have prevented. It is not even arguable that this is borderline mandatory if you want to optimize the game mode. Sorry, I have very strong opinions on that particular topic, because this game mode has proven everything that I've said to be just 100% true on that. Anyway, so the veteran uses Flak, Carapace, Rising Heat, Gets Hot for the plasma gun. I put Unyielding on because I was helping someone with a Monstrous. Don't worry about that. Flak and Carapace is again because you're just fighting so much Flak and Carapace, and they have such inflated stats that you just always need to focus on it. Okay, let's go over the builds, and we'll talk about what makes the builds tick. But real quick, I just want to say, absolutely everything in Havoc is about choke points and funnels. You will always, always, always be taking enemies like this and aggroing them. This is the other reason you need to use the plasma gun. Just real quick, a primer. You need to use the plasma gun because of sniping gunners. Even just the little shooters and these elite gunners, the only thing the veteran absolutely needs to do is they need to crowd control with shredder grenades and shout. They need to snipe gunners with the plasma gun, and that's because of funnels. So imagine this to this is a doorway. These little markings on the ground, this is a doorway. Everything about Havoc is pushing things through a funnel. Literally everything. It plays exactly like Cata 3 Deathwish Onslaught used to play. So let's say you have 30 Crushers in a horde. Only 2 crushers can fit through this funnel at any given time. 2 crushers each has about 8,000 health on Havoc 40, I mean. So let's say that's 16,000 health worth of stats coming through the doorway. Well, if we tried to hold in an area that was like here to here, well, now like 5 crushers can fit in here, and that's like 40,000 stats worth of health pushing through that you have to deal with. And you do not want to be in that position. You will quickly get scattered and broken apart, and you will quickly get backed up against the wall. Second off, another thing in Havoc that's really common is holding block back to the wall while you slide, dodge, kite like this to the left until someone gets a crowd control ultimate off cooldown. Okay, anyway. The plasma gun is just by far the most efficient gun in the game. It takes the least amount of ammo to do the most amount of damage. And when you consider that Havoc 40 plus hardened yellow elite gunners take like 5 headshots to kill, genuinely it takes like that much, like 3 if they're all crits, then you recognize that also it takes like anywhere from 3 to 5 shots to kill those yellow gunners when they get pus hardened. And you only pick up like 2 shots worth of ammo from every 10. Yeah, ammo efficiency becomes huge. Basically, the veteran gets all the ammo funneled towards him. Okay, let's talk the actual builds. All of this is garbage. I'm just going to come out and say it. All of this is garbage for Havoc 40. The biggest reason confirmed kill becomes really terrible a lot of the times, because the only times you get to proc this a lot is in those moments when you're throwing like 3 grenades into a horde that has a bunch of ragers in it. And like, you know, in situations like this, yeah, you can proc it a lot, but honestly, that's never when you die. You do not really die to hordes in Havoc. You primarily die to a stray gunner or 2. That's why Out for Blood and On Your Toes are mega important. They're mega important because having constant, huge sources of various toughness regen prevent mistakes. The other thing Havoc is all about is removing points of failure. This is why smoke grenades are awful in this game mode, even though you'd think they would be really good because of how dangerous gunners are, but then you consider all the little problems that they have. They run out. There's no indicator on when they're going to run out. You don't actually know if you're in the smoke or not. And if any one of those things happens when you aren't exactly, like, literally thinking and prepared for it, that leads to a, like, 2-second thing where you're exposed and vulnerable and weren't ready for it. And, like, 3 shooters are just, like, even if they're running because of their new buff, they can shoot while strafing. So yeah, that smoke dissipates for just a split second and you weren't ready for it, someone's going down. If you weren't ready for it and you weren't saying like, hey, Zealot 1, use chorus when smoke ends, you're dying. And that death can cause a cascade of failure where you just lose the run. I just hate to say it, but smokes just aren't really valid. Like I don't want to say they aren't viable, but man, they don't really feel viable. It feels like everything you can do with a smoke grenade, you can do better with bubble, and you can do even better with cover. Also, the utility of shredders, I say it a lot in my world's first clip. I go like, oh man, and you know, Reddit and crack grenades, blah, 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 blah. There are so many situations here's I was playing a game of Reginald today in Havoc, and it wasn't even 40, it was like 31, where I did 1.6 million damage with shredders. Let me just pull this up real quick. This is not the button to pull this up. Okay, like right here. He was playing Trauma Staff. I out-damaged a fucking Trauma Staff when it comes to horde damage. I killed more trash mobs than a fucking Trauma Staff because shredders are that goddamn good in Havoc. Think about that for a second. The Trauma Staff was doing less horde clear than the shredders were. And then you consider that the shredders are an additional dot, and most of your armor damage comes from stacking 3 dots: flame from the flamer, fire from the purge staff, well, soul blaze, and bleed from the veteran. And then you stack multiple sources of brittleness from different members of the team. So you recognize that bleed does most of your armor damage in this game mode, and shredder is effectively as good or better than the purge staff or than the trauma staff. And these provide so much you just can't like afford to give them up. You also can't afford to give up survivalists. This is the other reason smokes are bad. Ammo is so tight in this game mode, and Survivalist is still just 1%. So, this is almost like a civvy, where playing without Survivalist, like, makes it, like 2 more stars of extra difficulty. So this is like a second trauma staff. This is a huge source of your armor damage. This is a huge source of crowd control, and it gives you the least amount of points to get to Survivalist. This is borderline mandatory for a really good Havoc veteran build. Field Improv is, I hate to say it, kind of bad, and it gets worse the further in you get. Honestly, you just have to use the Zealot Corruption Cleansing aura to get around the one modifier that drops green gobbledygook on the ground. And the other problem is, as ammo crates restore less and less, guess what? You get less grenades back as well. So, like, you get less grenades back. So one of the reasons you would take this node would be more grenades, more shredders, because the veteran is taking 3 hits from the ammo box, because that's what they need to fully restore plasma. If this node was giving 9 grenades to the veteran, oh my god, it would be borderline overpowered. So they wisely nerfed that ahead of time, and because they nerfed that, this isn't really worth the skill point, sadly, as much as I love it. Demo team goes unimaginably hard. I threw like over 100 grenades in my world's first clip, and I don't know what else to say. 100 grenades. It provides that much value. It's crazy. And On Your Toes is the final piece of the veteran puzzle. This gives you the ability to, let's say you're disconnected from your team doing an objective, whatever, and you get shot and your toughness breaks and your shout's on cooldown. Well, swap, get your toughness back, gunner can't kill you, kill the gunner, swap back, and you just got half your toughness back, so you can take like a split second of gunner damage again, and that alone will pad you, just give you enough padding to survive so many situations. It also busts the dueling sword, and you really need to be stingy on your ammo versus hordes, so you really need to rely on the dueling sword putting in work versus hordes, and it's honestly not that great at horde clear, so when the hordes are buffed, it needs all the help it can get, because you can't afford to give up the special action. This is another thing, you need to abuse the special action. You need to be doing this a lot. You need to be doing heavy attack, alt. That allows you to demolish crushers in a few seconds, as you can see. Look, this is without Uncanny or my crit blessing stacked. This, like, effectively a white dueling sword is doing, like, 2,000 DPS on these guys. God forbid you start stacking reciprocity and riposte and shit and you start critting every hit. So that's generally the veteran's role. Oh, the other thing is, you hold the damage stim. You do not use the damage stim. So you hold the damage stim for the Psyker, and we'll talk about why. So let me explain what I mean by dots do most of the work in this game mode. So let's just throw down this. Imagine we're in a funnel where there's literally 30 crushers here, because that's not an exaggeration. See how we're doing 300 damage here? And then we do this, we keep Uncanny stacked, and 300 damage dots, and I don't even want to hear shit about talking about red stims. In Havoc, you have 2 people that are dedicated to doing nothing but holding red stims. The veteran and the non-flamer zealot. They are dedicated red stim holders, and they red stim the other guys that are placing down all the dots. Your dots are just auxiliary. Moving on. So the flamer is set up with carapace flak because that's 90% of what you're fighting. And you use penetrating flame just to give 20% brittleness to the whole team. Remember, everything has inflated health pools here, so they actually last long enough for this brittleness to stack up and be good. So this is just extra damage versus everything you're fighting, and this is extra damage for your whole team. So this is 20% team brittleness. And the rending stim is 25% rending and damage. So rending stim plus penetrating flame is like 50% rending, which makes it. So let me just show you this again, and keep in mind fire dots just do more damage. So look, Uncanny alone is 265. Look, we went from 49 ticks there to 111 ticks. Rending stims legitimately like double and sometimes triple the damage of dots. Then you stack Uncanny on that. Very easy for the Psyker to just within like 3 seconds put the Purge Staff dot on and apply like 700 plus damage worth of dots to everything in the funnel. So Let's talk actual builds real quick. If you get the green pus on the ground modifier and you need to counter it, do this. Just take Beacon of Purity. Beacon of Purity counters that particular modifier so hard. Oh, the other thing, you have to take Ecclesiarch's Call. Ecclesiarch's Call is 20% damage. So, again, you get the rending from the stim, the rending from the flamer, 20% damage from Ecclesiarch's Call, and like you're working with dots that are penetrating through the armor completely. They are doing like 50% more damage completely. And it just leads to a situation where your dots are doing 90% of the work. This game mode is so dot centric, it's kind of crazy. Also, this very important. The fact that this suppresses gunners is huge and is the other big reason why you don't take smoke grenades. Sorry, I just muted myself in Discord for no reason. So let's say this is our cover. Well, the Psyker drops bubble here so that the end of the bubble is right here and the middle is right here. This makes it so that the other end of the bubble is like right here. Now you have the Zealot Book. And Book is like 25-meter range on those last couple of pulses. So enemies all the way over there. This is how you can get a situation where you can effectively suppress and control gunners. We started over there, about 33 meters away. You can have like a 30 to 40 meter zone of control on gunners. You start in cover, drop bubble so that one end of it hits your cover, run into it, then run out of the other end, then have Zealot use Chorus, and that suppresses everything. And that's how you close the distance to get in close to kill them. So that effectively gives you like a 40-meter zone of control to where gunners just are a non-factor. Also, really, really, really important to have one guy coordinate ultimates so that the Zealots don't waste their books and overlap. You want one guy to say Zealot 1, book now, Zealot 2, book now, so on and so forth. If you are the Flamer Zealot, you need to be book number 2. You should always be using your book last and least. And that's because your primary job is to apply dot, apply penetrating flame, then just left click to keep Blaze Away active for the dot damage. This is the other Zealot. They use a bolter purely for bossing. Literally, this only exists to kill bosses, period. And this is their build. The other thing that they're doing is when they aren't killing bosses, like say a Beast of Nurgle spawns, if no Beast of Nurgle is spawning, then you want to do something like this, where all you're focused on is keeping Invocation of Death up so that you can get more choruses because you're going to be the primary book guy. Your primary job... excuse me, sorry, my lungs are dying. Your primary job is just book, 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 book. If you've seen people the last day or two talk about Zesty Book, that's why. Because I was saying that like 50 fucking times. Because it just comes up a lot. And finally, this is the Perk Staff. Also, worth noting, we swapped this to Carapace damage, and it ended up being significantly better. So, the Psyker is interesting, because there's 3 things we need to talk about. Battle Med, Brain Burst, Bubble. Venting Shriek falls off hard in this game mode. Bubble gives you that initial zone of control that I was talking about. And Bubble is very important, I feel like, for the simple fact that Bubble enables you to, at any point, just click a button and turn off the most dangerous thing in the game mode. You might say, why not use smokes? Well, ignoring the fact that you're giving up shredders, which is more important than Venting Shriek, honestly. Second off, pulling out a smoke, dropping it, and throwing it, and then waiting for it to pop takes like 2 seconds. You don't have 2 seconds to spare versus these gunners. Whereas Bubble is just click F, immediate defense. Second off, so since you're not taking Venting Shriek, you need to take Battle Meditation. Battle Meditation basically makes it so you always get immediate, like, 100 to 0 quells. Because the Purge Psyker is just killing so goddamn much. Brain Burst is incredibly important. I've seen people say Smite is good in this mode. It is absolutely not. So Brain Burst with this comp is hugely important for the simple fact that the veteran is so stingy on his ammo that you need to help him with the shooters. Because you're going Purge Staff, you don't have a ranged option a lot of the time if you're getting pinned down by gunners. So you have nothing to do with your peril, and you're just kind of sitting there. Well, even if you're just killing like 4 shooters total, that is 4 shooters the veteran doesn't have to kill. That's 4 plasma gun shots. That's like 30 bullets saved. which is like 12 ammo tins in this game mode. Yes, you can save 12 ammo tins just by brain bursting a couple shooters. Your veteran will love you if you do that. Psychonetics Aura is absolutely insane, and we got like 7 more books off Psychonetics Aura. Then consider that it's 7. The Psyker was getting about like 150 to 200 elite kills and like 50 to 100 special kills. So he's taking about 330 seconds off of everybody's cooldown. So 330 seconds across 4 people. The Psyker genuinely gives you like 12, 15 minutes worth of ability cooldown just with this node. This node is practically mandatory, and remember, it only procs on Psyker's kills. But Psyker's getting the most kills anyway because of the Purge Staff. By the way, this thing fucking broken. So remember that choke point? Something I just want to show here. The Purge Staff is the best staff in the game and is frankly the best weapon in the game. Nothing else even comes close. Again, let's say this is our funnel and this is the Purge Staff. Well, once you do right click, left click, now you just left click. You just... Because that left click has as much stagger as the fucking Trauma Staff. Why? The dots on this, even with no buffs, tick for like 300 damage. Then you add Venting Shriek. Then you add Brittleness from a teammate. Now your dots, you add Blaze Away, Venting Shriek Overcap, and you add either a Rending Stim or Rending from the Zealot. Your dots are ticking for 500. A fully charged right click, then left click on the Trauma Staff has like slightly more stagger value than just left clicking with this thing, and only does like 600 to 700 damage, which is what these dots tick for, but it takes 2 seconds to charge the Trauma Staff. You get 4 ticks of the dot. This staff genuinely does 4 times the DPS of the Trauma Staff. That's not a fucking exaggeration. That's not even hyperbole or an exaggeration. It does like 4 times the DPS, and the flame is 16 meters. The radius on the Trauma Staff is only like 5 meters. So it is like 6 times bigger range. Or no, sorry, it's like 4.5 to 5 times bigger range and 4 times more damage. And it has arguably just as good of crowd control by spamming left click. Why did you add Blaze Away to this staff? Oh, also, every time you get a crit, which you're applying this dot on a million enemies, you proc metal. So you have like 70 ticks of the dot per second. At least like 30 of them are going to come from crits, which means you're replenishing like 70% toughness a second. This staff is... Yeah, you also have this. So it's like, this is like 15% damage constantly. This is 40% damage constantly. Holy fuck, who okayed this staff and why hasn't it been nerfed yet? Dude, I unironically believe one of these staffs in the hands of a very skilled player is stronger than 3 dueling swords. And I firmly believe that. Anyway, this node is a godsend because if your shield's gonna break, it's because there's just so many gunners that it just pops like within a few seconds. This means everyone can take like twice as many gunshots before actually falling over. Honestly, I think that genuinely covers most of it. Yeah, I really don't think I have too much else to say about Havoc. I enjoyed the fuck out of it. I am very grateful for all the support I received on it, and I'm very, very satisfied at getting World's First. It was a ton of fun to optimize. It was a ton of fun to feel like I needed to bring my best. I had to play my best. I had to support my teammates the best. And that's really what it comes down to. Sticking as a group, moving as a group, popping your ultimates in unison, like one after the other. Havoc genuinely feels like you need to actually be a team. And you actually have to use the map to your advantage. And honestly, I think Havoc 40 is genuinely the peak of Darktide. It only sucks that it's such a pain in the ass to set it up, actually get there, and find people to play it on. If Havoc 40 was just a game mode above Maelstrom, like in its own tab on the thing that you could quick play for, I genuinely think it would be peak Darktide. Anyway, thank you all. I hope you learned a lot. Love you. Mwah.